Welcome to the video. Today's video we're gonna fix the supercharger pump on my Saleen Mustang. Stay tuned. So the first thing we are going to do is lift up the car, put it on jack stands. So if you're doing this on a Cobra, same thing, or like a Roush Mustang. The only difference is with the Saleen pump, and we'll look at it later, it has a different type of pump. So normally they have like a Bosch pump, and this is an upgrade. So this is a Ford GT500 pump, which is from like 07 to 2009, I believe, maybe 2010. So this flows a lot more than the regular Bosch that you see on the Terminators, which is a little bit skinnier. This one also does come with a bracket. But this one is kind of a pretty much direct replacement for those other models, so you can use this. On the Saleen one, and we'll take a look at that pump, it's way different. It has AN fittings, AN lines. There is no plug on it, so we do need, you need a new pump, and then you need a new connector, which is a Bosch style connector. These are also like fuel injector connectors, so same thing. This fits right in there. So we're gonna adapt this to the wires that are on there. So, but let's go ahead and get it jacked up, put it in jack stand so we can get underneath. Went ahead and got the car on the jack stands. Make sure you're safe under here, safety first. So this is looking underneath here on the passenger side, and you can see this big pump that Saleen put on these cars. Looks way different, and they used to sell a replacement one from Saleen, and they were, I believe, last time I checked, they were almost $600 for this pump, which, it's, I guess it's not, well, it is a little bit terrible. I mean, $600, but that's really the only replacement there is. No one really made one for these cars or makes one. I found one on Jags one time that is used for like racing applications that looks similar, but it was still about $300. So I went ahead and disconnected this line here just so we can drain the coolant. And I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect both of these AN lines. So this one up here on the front, this one here on the side. And then on this one here, it has this bracket on the top. So it has 4 bolts. You can see them right here. They go through on this black bracket that's bolted onto the, I guess the front crash bar. And it's angled and it bolts to the top where the fender is. But I'm gonna take this 4 bolts off and just lower the whole pump off. And then we're gonna see how we can adapt that new one to this hoses and this bracket. So a couple different things if you're doing this on a Saleen Mustang is the bracket. So let me show you guys here on the workbench. But this is the bracket that is in this pump originally. And so those are the 4 bolts that bolt onto the bracket in the frame. Now, this one comes with this bracket, which actually if you just put like a small screwdriver in between and spray a little bit of WD-40 in a few spots, then you're able to turn it. So I was able to turn it to face up, and that way the orientation of the hoses, one's that way, the other one's that way, it's the same. You could probably bend this bracket to bolt it in the 2 spots and then bolt this to it. You could possibly weld this in there. But what I'm gonna do is I went ahead and got this angle aluminum, And so the 2 bolts here, these are gonna line up with the pump right there, and then these 2 bolts line up with 2 of these bolts on the bracket. So it is gonna be a little bit lower than this one, but it's not a big deal. There's room under there. Also, I do have the ability to put on either one, but that should be good enough to bolt this to the car. So I'm gonna get some bolts to put this together right here, bolts and nuts, and then I'll bolt it up to the vehicle as well. The other thing that you'll need if you do have a Saleen with the factory hoses, those are AN hoses, and those are 8 AN, which technically 8 AN is 1/2 inch, so those hoses are in there a 1/2 inch, but I was able to find these adapters, so these are 8N to 5/8 barb, and so I can actually put this hose right in here. So I can just, instead of taking this fitting, bolting it onto the hose, and then, you know, maybe going to Home Depot and try to find something from here to a barb, this one bolts onto that hose, same size, and then I can just cut this hose here. It'll be about right there. So it's going to be a little bit, maybe a little bit farther out than this one, but with all these adapters, actually, it's almost going to be about the same. And then I just got to put some hose clamps on both of these, and so that'll be done. So this ones are about, I think they were like $12 on Amazon. And that was the only place I was able to find this exact 8 AN to 5/8 barb. This pump technically is 3/4, but if you put a little bit of grease, you can get the 5/8 hose to slip over it and just use the 5/8 hose. So I'm gonna get this bracket mounted and then we'll bolt it back in the car. Okay, so went ahead and connected the pump. I just turned the key on because on these cars, after you have it on for a few seconds, it turns the pump on, and you can see, get a flashlight here, you can see in the reservoir there, but you can really see the water swirling in there. So before I could barely see it, kind of little ripple in the reservoir of the water circulating, and that's not even with the pump hot. It would barely kind of move. Now I can really see it swirling around. So I can tell that pump does push more. And even I remember when I did like the front cooler, and I got water in there, actually wouldn't even circulate whatsoever. I had to loosen the hose and get it to kind of pump in there. This pump just circulated in there pretty good. So gonna cover this up. Now I'll probably drive it a little bit and then check the coolant level again. Once I drive it a little bit, I'll check the coolant level. Make sure that it's good. I really don't think it will go down too much, but just make sure you check that. Check for leaks. I don't see anything underneath or anything, so those fittings work good, those hose clamps. The nice thing is now, if that pump ever goes out, I can just buy a direct replacement for a GT500 and it would fit right in there. I don't have to do anything. I'll have the plug and everything. I am gonna hold on to this pump because I think from what I was reading online, these can be rebuilt. If I ever wanted to, you know, I might even just save it. I don't know, but I'm not gonna get rid of it just because these are hard to find. Like I said, from Saleen, they're pretty expensive. So anyways, that's how you would upgrade the pump. Keep in mind, this thing has been in there. I think it's the factory pump from when the car was made in 2002. So that's about 23 years that it's been in there and it hasn't given out. I know with the other pumps, sometimes they'll last, I mean, well, they can last a long time, but especially this car has, like I said before, I mentioned before, it has about 200 and almost 210,000 miles. So if you think about it, this pump has done a lot of work, and it could have been now since I bought the car. I know the front cooler was plugged and all that, but I'm gonna see if I do see any difference. I think the main thing I'm gonna check out is the intake temperature sensor, the temperatures of the intake air, and see if it makes a difference. I know before, once I replaced the front cooler, I mean, they would the temperature on the water would stay cooler, but when I checked the last year or so, maybe 6 months, that I check my, a code reader and I can check the temperatures, they would go up. I mean, they would go sometimes like 160, creep up a little bit, 170, especially if it was hot, or if I stepped on it a little bit, which you should see about, I think, 120, 130, maybe go up to like 140 if you really step on it, but then go back down once it cools it. And that's the thing that it's been doing, where it just goes up to 170, 180, and it kind of creeps there, stays at 160, which is a little on the hot side for the temperature on the air intake. So we'll see if that gets better, especially with that other cooler in there. It should flow better, it should be cooler, but we'll see. I may make a follow-up video later on. But that's it. So if you have any questions, comments, leave them below, and subscribe to the channel. That helps out a lot. We'll see you in the next one.